I'm hoping for some advice from Springboard, but also maybe some thoughts about how a university could work with the organization.
So my small piece of advice, I guess, is really to define the mission more deeply. Decide what really is innovative. There's a lot of work going on right now under this guise of education entrepreneurship, and I think you have to really decide what's innovative programming. I think the days of doing teacher workshops and one-day things and one-day this and that little pieces, I think are gone. And I think it behooves you to really think about what is innovation in education today. It also will behoove you to really think about what is critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication skills. Thank you for the cheat sheet. Because I believe that if I went around this room and I said to each one of you, show me something that you believe is creative, or show me something that would be, that would show communication skills, you could all show me something very different. And I think in order for you to really be very clear about the mission and about what the organization is and what the organization's about, I think you're going to have that conversation. And you're probably going to have to bring all those things to the table and say, yeah, this really is creativity, and this is really what we're trying to get, and maybe this one, not so much. But I think we've got to have that conversation and really, really go deeper and define what those things are so that you can really go out there and you can say, these are the kinds of things that we really are seeing with our kids, and this is what we mean by creativity, and this is what we mean when we talk about critical thinking, because that's going to be very different. I think you have an opportunity with universities from multiple perspectives. One, we have a wonderful partnership through Wendy at the University of Missouri St. Louis. But of course, it could always be stronger. I think there's a tremendous amount of research that could be done. I think there are people that, particularly people that we've hired recently, that would have a lot of interest if you really think about some of this and how you define it, and being able to really think about what the data is, or what is the kind of research that you might want from a university. We also are working on changing our teacher education program. We have changed it in the last year. That has changed significantly, where all of our courses are now paired with youth-serving organizations, so that our students from day one begin to have opportunity to work with kids in a variety of different contexts. Certainly Springboard could and should be one of those. From a leadership standpoint, the other piece that we're headed down in terms of path is really now thinking about leadership and educational leaders much more broadly. And helping us really to define what that is, not only for schools, but also for youth-serving organizations, adult-serving organizations. So I think it also behooves us and for you to help us really be part of what we're doing and thinking about, so what does leadership in organizations like this look like? And what do we do to begin to prepare more people for leadership positions and organizations that I think complement what's happening in the K-12 sector. So I think there's lots of opportunities, and as you know, we could go on and on with that conversation.
I promised that you could get out by 1:15. I wanted to leave a little time for your questions, but I'm afraid that we're going to go over, so Bob?
Yeah. Well, we took care of a few extra things on the front end, so we do have about another 5 or 10 minutes that we can utilize here.
So if anyone in the group wants to ask some additional questions, I have a couple more I could add to, but I'd just as soon hear from all of you. If not, I'll go on. Or you could go on early, Bob.
Early on in the conversation, you talked about new measurements that schools are succeeding. What are these new measurements I think, Ty, I think you started that conversation.
Well, Common Core state standards is going to be the new measurement tool for the future in Missouri and the state and the country, actually. But Missouri is in the process, or already in the process, of adopting what those are going to be. And school districts are having to adjust to that by rewriting their curriculums to match that. So, I mean, that's not really negotiable for a public school. So.
Anybody else? Yeah,
I have a question. I'm, as an evaluator, going into the schools and listening to hopefully 2 classes in a row that is being presented by one of our specialists, then what kinds of things would be most important for us to be looking for when we are seeing just 2 classrooms worth And I know Martha goes also, I mean, it's not always just one of us, but Martha's certainly involved in doing the same thing, sitting and listening.
But what should Springboard staff who want to make better programs be looking for?
I love that question. I can take a stab at it.
I think you want to look for specialists who are aware, very aware of the kids in that room with them. Who are they as individuals? You know, you maybe want to have 5 minutes alone with the specialist. Say, you know, tell me about these kids. Tell me a little bit about these kids. Because the Springboard specialist, the teaching artist, should I say specialist? Springboard specialist or teaching artist? Teaching artist, that's what I always was. Okay. The teaching artist should be able to say to you, you know, week to week, person B is just, you know, it's been hard, I can't really get a grip on, but this person is unbelievable, I don't know why she seems a little off today. You want a sense of the familiarity with the class, not just with the content, although the content will have been, you know, you will know if they've been hired and they're in a classroom, they have performed and they have been sort of assessed, and you know you can count on them to know what it is they're talking about in their field. But in terms of that pedagogical piece, what's going on in that space, I think you also want to see that there's a relationship between the Springboard teaching artist and the classroom teacher. You want it to be positive, you want it to be productive, you want it to be affectionate, and even if it's kind of distant, even if you have a teacher who's behind a pile of books on a cell phone, you still want them to be friendly. You want it to be a person who kind of gets why we're there, gets what's going on, has said, you know something, for this hour I gotta catch up my work a little bit. Because we do that for them too sometimes. I mean, obviously it would be ideal to have them on board and engaged and participating. So I think attention and it's the relationships that really matter. Relationship with the teacher, relationships with the kids as individuals, and then, you know, tell me a little bit about what you were thinking might have happened this hour. The ability of the Springboard specialist to be able to go meta, talk about what it is they were trying to accomplish. And that's all.
Can I answer that in another way? Of course. I don't think it's about the teaching, but I'm also the woman trying to get rid of student teaching. So I think it has to be about the learning. I think it has to be about, you have to define what is critical thinking, what's creativity, what's collaboration, what's communication skills. And you have to be able to walk into a classroom and look at student learning and student work and know whether or not you're getting there. And if you're not, then the conversation is, okay, how do we help kids to better get there? And what's the instruction need to look like? Because I think if you keep looking at if we keep looking at the instruction, and we keep looking at teachers and what teachers are doing, and we're not looking at the learning, then we don't really know. So in some ways, I think it behooves the evaluation process to stop looking at the teachers for a minute, start looking at what you're getting from the kids, and decide whether or not this is what you want to get from the kids. And if it is, great, then you know the teacher's done something. And then you also, you know, then you look at the things I'm just saying too, because of course those are important. I don't want to belittle them. But I think the organization, it behooves the organization to really start to define what it is you really are expecting from kids. What does a student learning look like? What's the product that you want? What is it where is it, you know, where do you want to move these kids? But you got to start there, or you can't evaluate whether teachers are doing what you want them to or not, because you don't know what the real outcome is.
I guess I'm in between the two in regards to that, just not literally. I agree that it's important to know through students if the learning is taking place, but I think as an evaluator, you're not evaluating the kids, you're evaluating the adults. And so I think it has to be a balance of both. And I think it's essential to know, first, what is it that you want kids to be able to know and do? That's how you know if the instruction has been effective. But I think the other side of that is, in my opinion, good teaching is good teaching. And so either you're an effective instructor or you're not. Some kids might get stuck because they got a lot of background information that has nothing to do with you. So if you look at the outcome, or if you just look at the student learning and say, well, they were good because the kids got it. Kids might have had it before that person walked through the door. So that's not going to be an indication of that person's effectiveness. So I think you have to have a balance. You look at where the kids started, you look at how much growth they have. You can ask kids, what did you learn? What did you do? What was the outcome? They can give you that information. They'll tell you sometimes if you don't ask them. But you also have to look at, is the adult that is providing the instruction have the relevant relationships, is effective in instruction, and is following the objectives that they've set for that day. So I think it's a balance of both.
Kathy?
Last question. I just want to say, as a former educator, or retired educator, I feel like that our programs, in our strategic planning process, we've tried very hard to think about how our programs can really develop or promote the 4 C's. And so I think it's incumbent upon us as we go forward to know what schools are looking for in those areas, to know curricular needs for, okay, you have a curriculum and some needs there, that how can we work together to be sure that the 4 C's are integrated into, you have a gap, you have a part of your curriculum where you wish you could spark some of that creativity a little bit more, and work together, and our programs maybe provide that spark. Because what you're saying, I think, Inda, is emphasizing that relationship with the child and knowing where they are, where you want them to get, and that's essential in our residencies and things that are longer term. But if we have a lot of our programs being performances and workshops that might just be 2-3 sessions, then I think we need to know more. How can we integrate what you need with what we feel we can provide in terms of sparking those 4 areas?
So
It's my thought. So I'm wondering, kind of, does that fit at all with?
Well, let me add one to your question, Kathy, which is, who would we talk to in a school to find out how our interests can mesh with the schools?
You assume schools know that. That might not be as good as Go ahead.
No, you're right. I would start with the curriculum coordinators or the content specialists. If you're going to do something in a big district like ours, for example, we have people who are content specialists in the 4 core areas: math, science, social studies, and communication also. So those would be people who can at least tell you where the gaps might be. In smaller districts, it might only be 1 or 2 individuals. So you might want to start there as far as if you're trying to really align it to the curriculum. Once the Common Core state standards are out, you can look at those. Those are public documents out there to see in your program development, does it hit any of those major components that are out there? As I'm looking at your 4 C's, critical thinking, there's nothing in the curriculum that's going to be there. It's going to be application things. Creativity, the same thing. Collaboration, that's going to be classroom environment. Those are things that good teaching could address through structures and those things. But the communication skills, there are a lot of different ways to address that. As you said earlier about it, we ask that question, we might get different things. But if you think about what you want to bring to the table that you think can impact schools, if multimedia is the way of communication in the future, what programs do you bring to a school that might be exciting and push a school to another level that they might not have thought about? We're just going to simply do creative writing. We've done creative writing for years, for centuries. It might be more creative than the teacher before, but creative writing is not new for many schools. But creative writing with PowerPoints and with multimedia components that a school might or may not have, that could be enticing. So your people can come in and say, okay, we know this is on the state state C's, whatever they're going to call it eventually. And here's something that we've developed that we believe can make an impact in your building or supplement what you currently do. The first person I would get in contact with would be who's ever over curriculum in the district. They can tell you who the individuals are. Because she's right, they might not know. So that way you address both.
Well, they might not know, but you all sure know a lot. And we thank you very much for coming and sharing. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Thank you.